back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for all right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And
keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Friday, April 12th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that being said, let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So first two segments, we're going to talk about two first ballot Hall of Fame quarterbacks. We're going to talk about Tom Brady and his comments on a potential return to the NFL, playing-wise. And in the second part of the show, we'll also talk about Aaron Rodgers and his comments on coming back after the Achilles injury. Made another appearance on a podcast, so I wanted to talk about some of the stuff he had to say. Then in the third part of the show, we'll talk about Montez Sweat of the Chicago Bears, talking about wanting to turn the tides against the Packers and this rivalry. So we'll get into that. And then the final part of the show, a couple things I wanted to touch upon. The Browns restructuring Nick Chubb's contract, as well as Geno Smith and his comments going into the 2024 season. So, with that being said, let's get into the first topic, which is talking about Tom Brady and a potential comeback in the works, or maybe not. So, he made an appearance on a podcast. A lot of guys are making appearances on podcasts, and hey, that gives us content to talk about things that they say. So yeah, in an appearance on the Deep Cut podcast, he stated that he is not opposed to making a comeback to the NFL if a team suffers an injury to its quarterback and reaches out to him. And he compared this potential scenario to Michael Jordan returning to basketball. He also mentioned potential teams like the 49ers, the Patriots, and the Raiders as possible destinations. But the one thing that could prevent him from coming back is the fact that he is a part-time owner. But once that all gets figured out and finalized with the Raiders, because, you know, he's going to be a part-time owner. And if that ends up going through, the owners could vote against him coming back if he, wanted to come back. And also at the same time, he is going to be with Kevin Burkhardt in the booth for Fox next season calling games. So he's got a lot going on. But, like I said, did not rule out the possibility of coming back. So I wanted to go over a couple of things that he had to say directly. So he said, I'm not opposed to it. I don't know if they are going to let me if I become an owner of an NFL team, which is the Raiders. I'm always going to be in good shape, which I believe him. I'll always be able to throw the ball. So to come in for a little bit like MJ coming back, I don't know if they would let me, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. And like I said, named a few teams that it could be a possibility. And yeah, like I said, he also plans to begin work as a sports broadcaster at Fox Sports this summer. Again, he's going to be opposite of Kevin Burkhardt when the season starts next season. So I'm curious to see how he is going to be in the booth. But yeah, and then at one point in the podcast, he also said, my career and all that, that's a thing in the past in my mind. I was a gladiator out there, and now my time has moved on. Now it's okay. How can I deliver for my next group of teammates? I mean, with him simply just saying he's not opposed to coming back, he still misses playing. He still misses playing because that was his whole life. And I did see a recent interview well, not a recent interview, but I did see a clip of an interview from like, what was it? I think it was like 2005 of him talking about, what it would be like post his career and how he was like terrified of that. But it's here, and he's doing a lot. He's going to become a part-time owner or have some ownership of an NFL team, as well as being a broadcaster. So he's really living it up. But I think he still misses playing 100%. But for him to come back, it's got to be the right situation. I think he could go step into the 49ers quarterback position role and be successful because of the amount of playmakers he would have around him and the defense, of course. It's got to be the right situation. Now, again, he said if an injury happens, so Brock Purdy would have to get hurt. Now, I don't want to see Brock Purdy get hurt. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. I mean, I've been very vocal on injuries, and nobody likes injuries, but they happen. And you saw how many quarterbacks got hurt last season. So Brady could have came back last year and pulled the Joe Flacco. I think that's something else he said too, is that he doesn't. It's got to be something like, again, quarterback gets injured, something that he could come in late in the season, because that's exactly what Flacco did. And Flacco played really well for the Browns, and they got to the playoffs. Again, didn't end how the Browns wanted it to, with the Texans defeating them, but still, I mean, that was a storyline for weeks, how Flacco was playing with the Browns. So I think Brady could do that, but I think, like he said, it's a thing of the past, his playing career, but he's still open to it. And like you said, he's always in good shape, and he's always throwing, and I believe him 100% because football is just a part of his DNA, and that's always going to be a part of him. But yeah, maybe you close the chapter on that. Now you're doing other things. So it's not going to happen, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't miss playing. He absolutely misses playing. And he's definitely better than some quarterbacks that are still playing. But again, it has to be the right situation. Like, you can't go to a team that's trying to find a quarterback themselves, and like if he went to a team, like if he went to the Giants right now, like he wouldn't be good. It's got to be the right situation. I mean, the Patriots, they're kind of rebuilding. The Patriots, it makes sense because that was his home for 20 years, and I don't think he. Well, I mean, he did mention other teams, but yeah, I mean that's the thing you could say is he was with the Patriots forever. That's why he'd want to go back there. But right now the Patriots are not a great team on paper. They got a lot of things they got to work out with on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, defensively, I think they'll still be fine, but the 49ers, that would be the best spot for him. And I talked about this on a previous show. Kyle Shanahan reached out to Tom Brady before the season and said, hey, how would you like to, maybe play for us? Because, Brock Purdy's still recovering from the elbow injury, didn't know how he was going to be. You let Purdy sit behind Brady for a year. And that could have been possible, but Brady said no. But yeah, it's a thing of the past, and especially like at his advanced age of, what is he now? He's 45, 46 years old. So again, has to be the right situation. I think it would have been better off for him had he retired after the 2021 season. But so he's 46. Yeah, he should have retired after the 2021 season because that was a great year for him. And they lost to the Rams. They almost pulled off that incredible comeback. If he would have retired then, that would have been fine. But to go out like he did losing to the Cowboys for the very first time, and the Bucs finished 8-9 on the season. Yeah, he retired a year too late. But again, I mean, it's not all his fault that the Bucs finished 8-9, but yeah, probably would have been better off if he retired after 2021 when he played like an MVP. And many people said he should have won the MVP in 2021 over Aaron Rodgers. And you could definitely make that case because he had a really good year. I think he had like 43 touchdowns that season. Played really well. And I honestly thought I thought the Bucs were going to somehow make it back to the Super Bowl. But they went up against the Rams, and the Rams stopped them. And give the Bucs credit for almost coming back and pulling off the comeback, but yeah, that was his last really good year. Yeah, so what did he have? He had 43 touchdowns to 12 interceptions in 2021 with the Bucs. And then of course when they won the Super Bowl, he had 40 touchdowns to 12. Yeah, and those 2 years are in between his final year in New England when he had 24 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. And then in 2022, what did I say? I said, I meant 2019. I think I said 2022. 2022 with the Bucs, 25 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. And then 2019, he had 24 touchdowns to 8 interceptions his last year in New England. And then in between that, 40 to 12, 43 to 12. Put up really good numbers his first 2 years in Tampa. But his final year, the offensive line wasn't very good. There was no more Bruce Arians. Yeah, so I think he would have been better off. I mean, I said he should have came back. I said that because I'm like, he can still play. I mean, he should come back. And also there was no Gronk his final year either. So, but yeah, kind of retired a year too late. But again, I think, like I said, he can still play. I feel like, but it's got to be the right situation. So, but I think it's not going to happen, but he does have the door cracked open a little bit. So, we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. Because, like I said, there was a ton of quarterback injuries in 2023. And if something similar like that happens in 2024, and it's the right situation, then maybe we see Brady suit up again. So, but right now, it's focused on the Raiders and being a broadcaster. And again, like I said, I'm curious to see how he is going to be in the booth. Because he's an incredible football mind, knows the game. But how is that going to be now being a color guy on an NFL broadcast? I mean, again, I think he's going to provide great insight. But let's see how it is. Some people think he's going to be bad. Some people think he's going to be really good. But we'll find out. Maybe he's going to be the next Tony Romo, where he's just going to predict every play. And now, again, now this is from a broadcaster standpoint. This is not from a quarterback standpoint, because we know Tom Brady's resume. I mean, Romo does not stack up to that at all. But just saying, when Tony Romo first broke in, everyone loved him as a broadcaster. So, we'll see how he is. And I think there'll be some growing pains, but, and I think I think Brady will do all right. And he's with Kevin Burkhardt, who I really like as a play-by-play guy, so, again, curious to see how that goes. So, but let me know what you guys think about what Brady had to say on a potential comeback. Do you think he will find a way to come back, or is this all just to get people talking? Because, yeah, that's partly what this segment is just something to talk about. Because again, it's in regards to the greatest quarterback of all time, in my opinion. I know a lot of people disagree with that. My dad's one of those people, but I think from a resume standpoint and, what he was able to do, I mean, yeah, it might not have been the most talented, but I think you got to say he was the greatest of all time. But we're going to talk about another all-time great in the next segment. We're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers and some of the things he had to say about his Achilles injury that ended his season last year and how it was a possibility that he might have retired. So we'll get into that when we come back from our first break of the show. So with that being said, stick around and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit. A stupid myth, you choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers and some of the things he had to say on the podcast that he made an appearance on, talking about his Achilles injury, and let's get into it. So, he talked about how right when the injury happened, that he thought that this was it. So this is what he said. Again, this was on the I Can Fly podcast, and I'll be honest, some of these podcasts I just have never heard of. But this is what he had to say. So I was really thinking, this is it. You don't come back from this injury. And then some of the other things he had to say. I had this incredible off-season experience in a new city, a new town with new teammates, a new organization and owner for the first time, and really falling back in love with the game that I first fell in love with when I was 5 years old. It was absolutely beautiful and special and deep and rich and yummy and just incredible. Interesting choice of words there. And then one of the most heartbreaking nights of my life, when I played 4 plays, talk about an ego death. And then he also said, when talking about people being there for him, he did talk about how he needed people just to the people close to him to be there for him. He said, I need help. This is going to be really tough. I just need you all to be there for me on the tough days when I stop believing it's possible. He said, recalling what he told his friends. He said, it's hard to ask for help. And then some of the other things. Now, this is for the upcoming season. I'm excited about playing again. I love playing. I fell back in love with the game, and then I had to take it away from me in 4 plays. I miss being out there. I love competing. Football is my happy place. That's where I feel most in control of my athletic ability. I missed that last year. I really, really missed it. My heart was broken. I'm excited about taking the field one more time and not life or death, going to battle with my guys. And, so a lot to say by Rodgers. And, there were some dark days that he probably felt like he can't do this. And, especially at his age of 40, and dealing with this significant injury. Yeah, it definitely wasn't easy. And I know all throughout the season, there were rumblings like, hey, if the Jets, if they're still in a striking distance of a playoff spot, Aaron Rodgers could come back on Christmas Eve against Washington. And, of course, that never happened. And, again, for me, being a fan of his, it was like that internal battle of he's not coming back, but then it's like, well, maybe is it possible? Because I wanted to see him do it, come back and lead the Jets to the playoffs, and then go to the Super Bowl, win it, and then ride off into the sunset. That would have been incredible. Now again, it was not going to happen, but it just, like, how crazy would that have been if that actually did happen? But yeah, like, the one thing I'll say is, you go back to the first thing he said, is he thought his career was over. So right in that moment, he thought, yeah, I'm done. And I think that's something that I feared and many others did. That, like, this is it. Like, he's not coming back. But, you know, as the year progressed and, you know, he was trying to work his way back, and, you know, after he did get surgery, you know, you're like, oh, okay, well, he still wants to play. And maybe if it's not in 2023, it's going to be in 2024. But in that moment, he thought, yeah, this is it. He thought this was it, as we all did. And, you know, he did talk about how, I think still on this podcast, though, like, you know, it went from one of the greatest moments of his career, he said, running out onto the field on September 11th, holding the American flag, which was a really cool moment. And then the game starts, and in 4 plays on the Jets' first drive, he gets hurt and is out for the year. Again, I was standing right over there in front of my TV, and I was just in disbelief. And just seeing him get up and then go back to the ground and have to be helped off the field. Again, I'm not a Jet fan. I'm a football fan, and I'm an Aaron Rodgers fan. It was really tough to see that. Because, like, for me, I wanted him to go out there and show that he could still be an MVP and play like an MVP. Because, you know, 2022 was a down year for him. And, you know, the Packers, obviously, he had to, you know, build up relationships with his young receivers. And, you know, towards the end of the year, you know, Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. Well, Romeo Doubs and Rodgers had a nice connection in the beginning of the year, but then Christian Watson came back from injury and, you know, was really playing well. And the Packers were playing well. And it looked like maybe they're going to squeak into the playoffs and be that final playoff team. But the Lions said, nope, that's not going to happen. And that's how Aaron Rodgers ended his career with the Packers, losing to the Lions in Lambeau with a chance to go to the postseason. And not a lot of people were high on Rodgers, but the Jets were like, you know what? He can give us a chance. They got him. And, you know, he said all the right things, and Jet fans were falling in love with him with everything he was saying about, hey, that Super Bowl trophy's getting lonely in there. It's lonely in there. And the relationship that he was developing with the young players on the Jets, it was great vibes all around. And then that all ended on that Monday night to start the season. And I'm hoping that he comes back and he plays well. I mean, I'm not expecting him to play how he did in 2020 and 2021, but I think he's got the right pieces around him that I think he'll play good enough. And the Jet fans are going to see the best quarterback play that they've seen in years. Even though it might not be like from just a football, like pure football fan instead of just a Jet fan. Like if you're looking at Aaron Rodgers and he has a season like he did in 2022 where he has like 22 touchdowns and like, you know, maybe double-digit interceptions, and the Jets win like 10 games, I mean, you'll take that. And if they make the playoffs especially, you'll take that. Again, not expecting him to play like an MVP, like, you know, 2020 and 2021. But I think he should play good enough where the Jets can make the playoffs. And I think the Jets will make the playoffs. Like I said, I'm gonna take the stance of the Jets will make the playoffs. Rodgers will play well, and they'll find a way to get in. And look, I like the moves that they made, although there is some risk with a Mike Williams, with a Tyron Smith. But if Rodgers has better protection in 2024, that Jet offense is going to do well. And especially because look at how Breece Hall finished the season. And you can rely on him, give him the ball a bunch of times, take some pressure off of yourself. So it's not just Rodgers throwing the ball 40, 50 times a game. You got Breece Hall back there, who's becoming one of the best running backs in the NFL. Already is. So you got that. Improved offensive line. On top of that, the defense that they have. This team should be good. Regardless of whether you like Robert Saleh or not and Nathaniel Hackett as the offensive coordinator, this team should be good in 2024. And they should be fighting for that division because, again, the Dolphins and the Bills, they got weaker. And I know some people are low on the Bills, and I know I'm not really that high on them, or as high on them as I have been in years past. But you still got to give them respect. The Dolphins, you still got to give them respect, even though, again, they got question marks, particularly at the quarterback position. Division's kind of wide open. And for me, right now, on paper, I think the Jets have the best team. Because, their defense especially. And if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, that just only adds to it. But, if he goes down, then this conversation doesn't mean anything. So, again, I'm really hoping that he bounces back and has a good year, and the Jets find a way to get into the playoffs. But we'll see. We'll see. And, we get to the regular season next season and things are not going the Jets' way. Well, you're going to hear me come on and say, well, I was wrong. But I'm not going to back down. Jets are going to have a good year. And if they don't, if Rodgers gets hurt again, then I'm out. I don't know what to say then at that point. But yeah, at least going back to the night he got hurt, for the moment he did think to himself, "This is it." And I do remember, I think Garrett Wilson was talking about it. Like he saw Rodgers after the game, and Rodgers, after the injury, and Rodgers was said to him, "I'm sorry, kid." It just was it was so deflating. Everyone collectively, for the most part, whether you like Rodgers or not, with some of the things he says off the field, people were just upset about it. That this was horrible for the Jets. It just was it really did stink for the game. Because you wanted to see what he was going to do with the Jets. And we didn't get that chance. But we're hopefully going to get that chance in 2024. Like I said, this is take 2. And again, I have Jet fans that are friends, family, coworkers. They're not getting excited because they know if they do and something happens, and it's just going to be disappointing again. So I'm hoping for them that take 2 is the one. And the Jets go out there and they have a good year. And they make the playoffs for the first time since Mark Sanchez and Rex Ryan were on the team. And that, the back-to-back AFC Championship game years. When Bart Scott said had the famous post-game interview. That was a good Jets team. That was the last one to really do anything. So, we had Ryan Fitzpatrick and the Jets, Todd Bowles' first season. He thought they were going to make it after that overtime win against the Patriots. And then they lost in Buffalo to Rex Ryan and the Bills. yeah, I mean, this is it. And if it doesn't go well, Robert Saleh is probably going to be gone. Joe Douglas might be gone. So we'll see. But like I said, I'm on the Jets bandwagon. I'm saying that they're going to do well. And they're going to be a playoff team in 2024. So, but let me know what you guys think about the things Rodgers had to say. And what are your expectations for the Jets in 2024? So before we go to break, just want to remind you guys again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link, that is gsmcpodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. And that is gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So, when we come back from our second break of the show, we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers' old team, but we'll talk about Montez Sweat and his promise to break the Bears' drought versus the Packers. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back once again here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about Montez Sweat of the Chicago Bears and his comments on the Bears-Packers rivalry and how, you know, he wants to end this drought against the Packers. He vows to break the losing streak against the Packers. He refuses to lose to the Packers in 2024. So, this is what he had to say on the Green Light podcast hosted by Chris Long. He said, "I'm letting you know right now, man, I'm not losing to Green Bay this year. I can't do it. I can't do it, man. I'm not losing to Green Bay this year. We've created a real rivalry over there." And I just want to see if there's any more quotes from him. Yeah, so that was his quote. And yeah, the Packers, they swept the season series once again against the Bears in 2023, extending their dominance with a 10-game winning streak and winning 22 of the last 26 meetings. Sweat was acquired by the Bears in a midseason trade with the Washington Commanders, expressed his determination not to lose to the Packers this year. Bears have had recent struggles against the Packers, but they have made a lot of changes this offseason. Again, you go back to, them getting Sweat. They traded away Justin Fields. They're most likely drafting Caleb Williams. They also brought in Kevin Byard on the defense. They brought in DeAndre Swift via free agency. They also traded for Keenan Allen from the Chargers. And like I said, got the number 1 overall pick and also have the number 9 overall pick, which I also talked about on a previous show. And we'll see what they end up doing there, whether they add another weapon, they add someone on defense. But yeah, it's been rough for the Bears against the Packers recently, in recent history. Because you go back to, when was the last time the Bears actually did beat the Packers? I think, let's see. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I think it was it 2015? It might have been 2015. Because 2016, Rodgers had like an MVP year. They won both of those games. 2017, they won both games. Brett Hundley actually won the second game. Actually, I lied. It was 2018. 2018, because that was the year they made the playoffs. The Packers won the first game. That was opening night. That was when Rodgers got hurt, then came back in the game, and they pulled off the comeback when they were down like, I think what were they down like 20-0 in the fourth quarter? Or 20-3? It was something like that. Going into the fourth quarter. Yeah, it was not good. But Rodgers came back in, they pulled off the comeback, they won that. But yeah, it was 2018. 2018 was, I believe, the last time that the Packers did lose to the Bears. And that was when they made the playoffs. They had Khalil Mack and that really good defense. Mitch Trubisky had a good season. So, yeah, that was the last time. Then 2019, got swept. 2020, got swept. 2021 got swept. 2022. And then, 2023 with Jordan Love now as the new starting quarterback. I mean, week one. After week one, it was like, wow, Jordan Love looks like the much better quarterback than Fields, and there was a lot of buzz with the Bears. Like, oh yeah, I think the Packers were the underdogs in that game, I believe, and the Packers won by a lot. And then, the Bears got hot towards the end of the season. The Packers were hot towards the end of the season, and it was like, oh, maybe the Bears are going to knock the Packers out of the playoffs final week of the regular season, just like the Lions did, a division rival knocking them out, and that was not the case. The Packers still won that game. But now with the Bears, they are looking to be a better team in 2024 with the rookie quarterback, and that rookie quarterback is going to be Caleb Williams. And the Bears, I really like what they've done. Getting Montez Sweat. I mean, he ended up leading the Commanders in sacks and the Bears in sacks last season. And I know Matt Eberflus talked about bringing in another player, to kind of, compliment him. And we'll see what we'll see what they do with that number 9 overall pick. But on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, I love the playmakers that they have. You got a trio of decent running backs. DeAndre Swift coming off of a good season with the Eagles to go along with Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson. DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, love that duo at wide receiver. Cole Kmet has really developed into a nice tight end. I mean, Caleb Williams is stepping into a really good situation. But now, is that going to be enough to beat the Packers? I mean, I think at the very least that these teams could split next season. I don't know if I'm going to say one team is going to sweep the other, but you could. I think both games should be competitive if Caleb Williams is what he's supposed to be. Because again, we haven't seen Caleb Williams play a snap in the NFL. But I mean, you see the talent. If you watch a lot of college football, you see it. And I know he got comparisons to Patrick Mahomes. But again, how is that going to translate to the NFL? And I know some people have their doubts. Now again, for me, I got to see it for myself. Like, how does your game translate to the NFL? But again, he's going to be stepping into a good situation with the playmakers that he has around him. So I think he should be successful. But we'll just have to see. And again, it's really been one-sided for a long time. And Aaron Rodgers left and you thought, okay, well, now this is our time. Not so fast. The Packers still continued their dominance, sweeping the season series. And now we'll see in 2024 what happens. I mean, Rodgers just passed off the torch to Jordan Love, and before you know it, you might see Jordan Love saying, I own you guys. When Rodgers infamously scored that rushing touchdown against them in 2021 and said, I still own you. Yeah, it's been rough. I mean, if you go from now Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to now Jordan Love, it really is incredible. Again, Jordan Love finished off the year strong. Now let's see him put it together for the full. He did play a full season, but I'm saying, like, you play consistent throughout the year. Now, again, I think the way Jordan Love finished the season, that's what you're going to see. But if he is the long-term answer with the Packers, which it looks like he is, I mean, again, it's incredible how the Packers have only had 3 starting quarterbacks since, the 90s. Well, like the late 90s. That's unbelievable. And I think Bears fans, even if with Caleb Williams, if Caleb Williams is a stud and the Packers still beat them, it's like, when are you ever going to beat this team? But I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to see how this Bears offense is with Caleb Williams now, and whether he actually is the guy. If he's an upgrade over Justin Fields, which, we'll see. We got to see. But again, like, they're giving Caleb Williams all these weapons now. They get Keenan Allen, they get DeAndre Swift, and now they get rid of Fields. They did bring in DJ Moore. Fields got to play with DJ Moore, and Cole Kmet played well. But I don't know. Maybe Fields would have played better with now you adding even more weapons to this offense. I don't know. Well, now he's with Pittsburgh, so that's, it's not going to happen. But if Caleb Williams is everything that people are expecting him to be, this Bears offense should be good from day one. Again, there's going to be some growing pains because, again, he's never played it down in the NFL. But, if you're not successful with this offense, then that's a problem. That's a problem. So, but, I love the passion for Montez Sweat. That's something that's got to make, with him talking about ending this drought against the Packers, that's got to get Bears fans excited that they have a player like this that has that mindset that we're not losing to this team anymore. This is going to be our time now. You got to like that, but now you just got to go out there and prove it. Because, again, they acquired you, and you guys lost, 17-9 final week of the regular season? Let's see how it is now. Next time around. Because, the Packers got a couple of new players. Josh Jacobs running the football, as well as Xavier McKinney in the backfield on defense. So they're going to be better. And Jordan Love, I think, now in year 2, full-time starter once again, could have a better year. And I like the wide receivers a lot. They got a new defensive coordinator. Packers are going to be good. And, again, if Caleb Williams is good from day one, the Bears are going to be good too. Now, again, I still kind of put the Packers over them. But, look, that NFC North has, it's going to be a very competitive division this year. And you got the Vikings, who they got to figure it out at quarterback too. We'll see who they end up drafting. But again, I've talked about how I like their roster. It's just the quarterback is the problem. That they need to address that. Now I know they brought in Sam Darnold, and we'll see. Sam Darnold is probably going to be the starter week 1. But again, what's the ceiling is not very high for the Vikings with Sam Darnold at quarterback. Now, if you remember when he was the Panthers starting quarterback, they did start 3-0. They did. They did start 3-0, I believe. But then, things kind of fell apart after that. So, you know what, maybe he could play well with the Vikings. They got, like I said, got a solid supporting cast. So we'll see. But right now, you look at the Lions and the Packers. Those are the top 2 teams in this division. And then you got the Bears and the Vikings. Again, like their rosters, but got to see what got to see how the quarterback position performs. Now, again, with the Vikings, they have Sam Darnold, so he's probably going to start, and I think they're probably going to ease their rookie guy into it with who they draft. I kind of see that, but who knows? With the Bears, Caleb Williams is starting day 1. It's not going to be Tyson Bagent. Is he still on the team? Or whoever is the backup quarterback. Caleb Williams is going to be the starter from day one. So, but we'll see. We'll see if Montez Sweat delivers on his promise and the Bears deliver and, kind of take back this rivalry and, start winning against the Packers. But only time will tell. But let me know what you guys think about what Sweat had to say. Again, looking forward to these matchups between these two teams. Should be fun. All right, so we're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, we're going to talk about a couple of things. We'll talk about Nick Chubb and the Browns restructuring his contract, as well as Geno Smith and what he had to say going into next season. So, for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're going to talk about a couple of things regarding Nick Chubb and Geno Smith. So with Nick Chubb, the Browns renegotiated his contract to lower his base salary from $11.75 million for the 2024 season with the opportunity to earn it back through incentives. Obviously, Chubb suffered that horrific knee injury in Week 2 of the 2023 season, ending his year, and raised concern about his future performance due to now him being at age 28, and also dealing with past injuries as well, also in college, or going back to college, and Chubbs was before the injury one of the most consistent running backs in the NFL. I mean, right now he's got 6,500 rushing yards. 48 rushing touchdowns over 6 seasons. Again, like I said, one of the more consistent running backs in the NFL. And just him getting hurt earlier in the season like that was, again, one of the most devastating injuries of the 2023 season. And, the Browns, they still pieced it together. They brought back Kareem Hunt. Jerome Ford ran the ball well for them last year. So the Browns still, they figured it out. They still made the playoffs. I mean, obviously, with Nick Chubb and Deshaun Watson, it would have been different. But having them the full year. But, yeah, they had Flacco come in towards the end of the year, and they still made the playoffs. So credit to them. Again, season didn't end how they wanted it to against the Texans, but they still found a way. So, yeah, there's been, limited updates on Chubb's recovery, leading to speculation about his ability to return to form and his high cap number for 2024, which is $15.825 million. Rather than releasing Chubb, the Browns opted to adjust his contract, like I said, allowing him to potentially earn back his salary through the incentives, like I said. So right now, the Browns' current running back depth, it consists of Nyheim Hines and Deontay Foreman, so they brought those guys in. And, so they're bringing in a total of 6 running backs ahead of the draft. So, and listen, I like Deontay Foreman. I feel like he could be, a decent backup for them, take over that Kareem Hunt role. You still got Jerome Ford there as well. Nyheim Hines is coming off of an injury himself. But, yeah, they brought in a ton of depth, so they can try to ease Chubb back into it. And I hope they do, because I like Nick Chubb. And, again, watching him go down, that hurt the league as well, seeing him get hurt. So I hope he is able to bounce back. Because, this is a big year for the Browns. He comes back hopefully healthy. You got Deshaun Watson coming back. You made moves by, for example, you added to the running back depth, but you also traded for Jerry Jeudy. You signed him to a contract extension. You still got Amari Cooper there. David Njoku's coming off of a big year. You also have Elijah Moore there, a good defense. Coach of the year in Kevin Stefanski. So, I mean, the Browns, they should be a good team, again, in 2024, and should be battling for a playoff spot. Now, again, I look at the Bengals and the Ravens as the favorites for the division, so I think the Browns, their path to the playoffs, in my opinion, is through the wild card. But, you know, if Nick Chubb can get eased back into it and, you know, maybe be close to what he was before the injury, Browns, I think, could be in good shape. So, but, again, only time will tell with that. Again, I hope that he bounces back. But, yeah, like I said, limited updates on his recovery, so we'll see. And, yeah, getting older. He's getting into that old age for a running back. And, again, we're just like, we really are away from the time where it was like you thought Adrian Peterson and Marshawn Lynch were just going to be around forever. But, yeah, that's just how it is. Well, then again, you look at Derrick Henry, he's 30, and the Ravens signed him. And Derrick Henry could go out there with the Ravens and have, you know, this great year at 30. So he could be that, well, he already is that, this generation's, you know, Adrian Peterson, Marshawn Lynch. But we'll see how he does in his new home. But, yeah, Nick Chubb, but, you know, Derrick Henry isn't coming off of a significant injury like Nick Chubb is. You know, Nick Chubb's a couple years younger and has dealt with injuries before. You know, knee injury, I believe knee injuries in college. You know, it's just, it's unfortunate that this happens to him again. You know, now in the NFL against the Steelers on that Monday night. So we'll see what happens. But, you know, got to give the Browns credit for bringing in a lot of running back depth, you know, just so they have backup plans for Chubb, you know, with them trying to, you know, when he comes back, again, like I said, they want to ease him into it. So we'll keep an eye on it. So then the other thing I wanted to talk about was Geno Smith. So he's entering now his 11th season in the NFL, which is crazy to think about. He's determined to prove himself once again that he is the starting quarterback for the Seahawks. He is facing competition, though. Seahawks traded for Sam Howell. And I did say I think he's really going to push Geno Smith for that starting job. And, you know, things are going to be different because now you got a new head coach in Mike McDonald there, coming over from the Ravens. No more Pete Carroll. Smith restructured his contract. I know we talked about that on a previous show. But yeah, I mean, he's got to go out there and prove the doubters wrong again. He acknowledged uncertainty regarding the level of respect he receives in the league, but finds motivation in continually fighting for it. He credits Pete Carroll with instilling a never say die mentality of always compete, and expresses gratitude for Pete Carroll's influence on his career. While acknowledging the difficulty of Carroll's departure, Smith is embracing the direction under new head coach McDonald and offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb. Smith describes the offense as pretty complex under Grubb's system, but he and his teammates are committed to learning and adapting. He believes McDonald's vision for the team, emphasizing the importance of buying into the new coaching staff's leadership. Despite the changes, Smith draws on his experience with coaching changes in the past and stresses the importance of unity and buying into the new system for success. So I wanted to look at some of the direct quotes from that in the article here. But yeah, he says, I got everything to prove. He said, new coaching staff, old coaching staff, I got everything to prove. He said, that's every day. That's the way I wake up every day. I'm competing with Sam Howell. I know he's competing with me. I'm going to compete my butt off. I'm competing with everybody in this building to be the best that I can be. I really don't approach it any other way. But yeah, like I said, spoke very highly of Pete Carroll. And yeah, this is some of the other stuff he had to say about Pete Carroll. Like I said, he mentioned the stuff that Carroll told him. Always compete. What he learned from Pete Carroll. Always compete. Always go for it. Never back down. The day is the day I'll remember forever just because of how things happen for me. He said, obviously, Coach Carroll is a big influence on my career. Helped me out a bunch when I came to this organization, really helped me thrust into the spotlight that I'm in now. For me, it was kind of a terrible moment to see someone that I love so much having to part ways with him. That's the way of the NFL. That's the way things go. Very excited for what we have here now and just the direction we're heading in. So, I mean, we'll see. But it just goes to show you that, from what he said, he really praises Pete Carroll and really helped him out. And, yeah, the Seahawks really did believe in Geno because, they traded for Drew Lock. They got Drew Lock in the Russell Wilson trade. And people were like, oh, well, it looks like Drew Lock's going to be the starter. No, Geno Smith really took that starting job, and, they beat the Broncos week 1 in 2022, and then he said the famous quote of, they wrote me off, but I didn't write back. And he did have a good 2023 season. Not as good of a 2023 season as 2022. But, the Seahawks, they still had an opportunity to make the playoffs. And, I think Geno, he earned the right, to be the starter. Has earned the right to be the starter, these last couple of seasons. But now it's, different coaching staff. And I think what I meant to say was he has earned the right to, still, start games in this league and be, at least the backup quarterback. I think that's probably what could end up happening. I just knocked into my mic. Apologize for that. But, like I said, I think Sam Howell is really going to push him for this starting job. So he's got to go out there, like you said, he's going to go out there and compete and not back down. And I think that's a good mindset to have. But we'll see. I mean, with the Seahawks, I think you want to see what you have in Sam Howell because, the Seahawks have a good roster. And I think with Geno Smith, the ceiling's not very high. They maybe could advance in the playoffs, get into the second round possibly, but I don't really see them going any further than that if they were to get in. Now, they did miss the playoffs in 2023. So, and of course you got the Rams who got better. Again, had a bounce back year, and you still got the 49ers. So, the division's tougher. The Rams swept the season series with them. The 49ers, of course, did. Yeah, I mean, your only wins came against the Cardinals. So, they got some competition in that division. So, right now their best path is to make the playoffs through the wild card. But, I mean, we'll see. Is it going to be... I think if Geno Smith struggles, then it's going to be Sam Howell. But I think now with this new regime, you're going to have them battle it out. And for me, I would like to see Sam Howell be the starter and see what he does with this, better team that he's now with. Because, again, got off to a good start in Washington. And then, things just did not go well as the season progressed. So, I mean, there is some talent there with Sam Howell. Now, again, I don't look at Sam Howell as like the next elite quarterback, but, was up there in passing yards. I mean, again, first couple games, he looked pretty good. And even in some of the games that they lost, he looked good. But there were some games that they did lose that he looked pretty bad. Like the Cowboys game on Thanksgiving and, it just Giant games. But did look good against the Eagles, even though the Eagles' defense wasn't very good. But still, like in losing efforts, he did perform well. But in other games that they lost, did not play well. But I also, he was one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL too. So now you're on the Seahawks again. You're in a better situation. I'd like to see how he does. And again, because you got a pair of good running backs, you got, a trio of solid wide receivers. I'd like to see what he could do. And I think he'll have the opportunity to compete for that starting job. But we'll see. It's gonna be an interesting competition. Holding back a sneeze here. It's gonna be an interesting competition between him and Geno Smith. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, but that is pretty much it for the show for today. Again, with these topics here, let me know your thoughts in the comments with the Seahawks quarterback situation. Who do you think will get the starting job ultimately? And as well as Nick Chubb's contract situation. How do you guys see him bouncing back? I mean, again, hope he does, because, he is a great player. But, again, getting older as a running back, significant knee injury. Yeah, it's gonna be tough. But hoping for the best for Chubb, and I hope he bounces back and has a productive year for the Browns. And the Browns are hoping for a better year, and not last year where he had a ton of injuries. So, but yeah, another week in the books. These weeks just fly by. I mean, that's just how it is lately, at least for me. But yeah, again, make sure to tune in to all the other shows as well. Get perspectives on other sports here on the GSMC Sports Network. Also for football as well. Like I said, always give the other show some love. But yeah, that is all the time that we have for today, though. I'll wrap it up here. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back again on Monday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, have a good weekend, and I will talk to you guys on Monday. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn it.